Would you believe me if I told you Mr. Krabbs is spying on everyone in Bikini Bottom? During an episode in Season 6, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward find Mr. Krabbs' secret surveillance room. I started asking myself, why would he possibly need to do this? If Mr. Krabbs was really using this for protection, you don't think he'd have 10 cameras surrounding his money? So I'm left here thinking, could he really be using this for blackmail, collecting information to manipulate situations in his favor? Or could this actually be something a lot darker than that, and could Sandy be part of the entire thing? The episode Truth or Square starts with everyone in Bikini Bottom preparing for the Krusty Krabbs 11th 7th anniversary. SpongeBob, excited as ever, is tasked with decorating the Krusty Krab while preparing SpongeBob. Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabbs accidentally get trapped in the Krusty Krab's freezer to pass the time, and to find a way out, they start exploring the air ducts. As they navigate through the ducts, the episode takes a trip down memory lane. There are a series of flashbacks and imagined sequences. These include alternate scenarios, and a play that shows SpongeBob and Sandy getting married. Yeah, I think this scene deserves a video on its own because anyways, as they continue through the air ducts, they find Mr. Krabbs' surveillance room. The episode is interspersed with live-action scenes featuring celebrity guests like Robin Williams, Pink, Will Ferrell, Tina Fey, and LeBron James. This has nothing to do with the theory. I just thought it was funny seeing LeBron talking to Patchy the Pirate. The theory suggests that Mr. Krabbs might be selling the surveillance information to parties interested in studying the effects of radioactivity. Probably heard the theory that Bikini Bottom is a byproduct of nuclear testing, right? If that's true, then every day in Bikini Bottom is like a live experiment. A gold mine for anyone studying how radioactivity affects on marine life. Now imagine Mr. Krabbs not just as a greedy business crab, but as a key player in a secret operation. What if he's been selling a surveillance data to outsiders, scientists, governments? Who knows? Mr. Krabbs could be cashing in on his neighbors' lives, exploiting the potential aftermath of a nuclear disaster. The idea that he's secretly trading this information for profit paints a dark picture. It's not just about his greed anymore. It's about the exploitation of an entire community living in a potentially hazardous environment. No, I'm not going to get into too much detail about the Bikini et al. Nuclear testing theory, because it's been done dozens of times already. But I do want to scheme through it real quick, so this could all make sense. The theory suggests that the show setting Bikini Bottom is a reference to Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands, known for its use by the United States for nuclear testing from 1946 to 1958. This theory suggests that the characters, including SpongeBob, are the result of mutations caused by nuclear fallout, evidenced by their human-like intelligence and behavior. Sandy Cheeks, a squirrel from Texas, is particularly notable in this theory, living underwater in a dome and wearing a protected suit. She is seen as representing human involvement in nuclear testing. The theory point out details and hidden clues in the show like explosions that look like mushroom clouds, and the old-fashioned 1950s style, which match the time when the nuclear test happened. It suggests similarities between the colorful sea life and Bikini Bottom, and a fanciful version of a place after a nuclear test, the real-world impact of radiation on marine life at Bikini Atoll, where radioactive material has entered the food chain, causing mutations and ecological changes, fuels this theory. Steven Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob SquarePants, had a background in marine biology, which gives some plausibility to the idea that he might have been aware of these environmental issues. In Season 10 there's an episode called Pharaoh Friends. Basically, there's this weird green moon that turns everyone in Bikini Bottom into wild animals. Sandy is the only one who doesn't get affected, and she tries to save her friends from going full on animal mode, Squidward being one of the last people affected by it. Tells Sandy he wants an explanation, and this is where she pulls out her smartwatch and literally calls a scuba diver. But not just any scuba diver. Literally, the narrator of the show, Sandy freaking out about to explain everything that's going on to the scuba diver. He stops her and tells her not to worry, because he's been monitoring the whole time. Don't say another word. I have been monitoring the behavior of the green moon. Or Dave, excuse me, is this the person responsible for all the cameras in Bikini Bottom? Consider the idea that the surveillance theory is more than just an odd plot element. It's a profound metaphorical exploration of the consequences of nuclear disasters. In this narrative, Mr. Krabbs isn't just a money-hungry crustacean. He embodies those who profit from environmental catastrophe. Mr. Krabbs is warning to SpongeBob and Patrick about the dangers of the hooks, and the hooky episode might have a different motive rooted in it of itself. Mr. Krabbs is not primarily concerned about SpongeBob's and Patrick's safety, but rather about the possibility of his own surveillance activities being exposed. Mr. Krabbs, who has been secretly surveilling the residents of Bikini Bottom for financial gain, fears that if SpongeBob or Patrick were to get caught on a hook, they might interact with the fishermen. These fishermen could potentially be linked to the parties with the surveillance data. If SpongeBob or Patrick were to find out and reveal any information about Mr. Krabbs or his actions, even inadvertently, it could lead serious consequences for Mr. Krabbs. The hooks represent not just a physical danger to the characters, but also a potential link to the outside world that could unravel Mr. Krabbs' secret activity. His warnings about the hooks therefore are a self-protective measure to prevent his own misdeeds from being discovered. This adds a layer of complexity to Mr. Krabbs' character, painting him as more calculating and secretive than he appears on the surface. Mr. Krabbs often embodies the darker side of entrepreneurial spirit, particularly his readiness to exploit situations and characters for financial gain. And the Squirrel Jokes episode, SpongeBob starts doing stand-up comedy at the Krusty Krab. Initially, his jokes aren't very successful until he starts making fun of Sandy's squirrel traits. These jokes include stereotypical observations about squirrels, which the audience finds hilarious. Mr. Krabbs, as the owner of the crab, encourages SpongeBob to keep making these jokes because they're drawing in large crowds and consequently more money. He just doesn't care as long as he's making money in Jellyfish Hunter. Mr. Krabbs discovers a lucrative opportunity when SpongeBob adds jellyfish jelly to a Krabby Patty, making it a huge hit with the customers. I've got to tell someone about this. Sensing a chance to increase profits, Mr. Krabbs eagerly pushes SpongeBob to gather more jellyfish jelly, exploiting SpongeBob's unique ability to communicate with jellyfish. Initially, SpongeBob collects the jelly in a respectful and sustainable manner. However, as the demand for jelly burgers skyrockets, Mr. Krabbs' greed leads him to ramp up production. He sets up a large-scale operation, massively over-harvesting jellyfish without any regard for their well-being or the environmental impact. Or what about the countless of episodes he has served not only himself, but customers of the Krusty Krab, old food, just to save a couple dollars and born again? Mr. Krabbs becomes cheap to the point of insanity, even trying to serve a rotten, Krabby Patty in the Krusty Sponge. Mr. Krabbs capitalizes on SpongeBob's popularity, eventually serving spoiled Krabby Patties dyed yellow. There are dozens of more examples I could show you, but I think you get the point. Krabbs can and will take advantage of any situations, even if it means making 50 cents. So why wouldn't he take a lucrative business idea with Sandy, where he could possibly make more than he ever dreamed, spying on the residents of Bikini Bottom? Now for the last piece of evidence to tie this theory, the fishbowl was an episode at the time. If you were even thinking of this surveillance theory, you would have. In this episode, Sandy gets super into this behavioral psychology book, right? She's all set to study the behavior of the underwater creatures in Bikini Bottom. Like, come on, first. She tries observing them on a bus, but ends up annoying everyone and getting kicked out. She then spots SpongeBob and Patrick and decides they're perfect for her study. She starts off by just watching them, but they get all weird and stiff, knowing they're being observed. When Sandy ends the experiment, they go back to normal. Sandy then gets a bit sneaky. She sends SpongeBob and Patrick to the beach to collect sand, and secretly plants microphones and cameras to watch them. I mean, she's not even trying to hide it at this point, but I want to leave this question off to you. Could Krabbs and Sandy really be surveillancing Bikini Bottom?